Driving more traffic, more clicks, and more people to your website or landing page doesn't mean a thing if all they do once they get there is take a quick look around, come to the conclusion that what you have is not for them, and then disappear, never to be seen again. Yet sadly, this is exactly what most pages and sites do. Scare people away, often forever. In fact, depending on what statistic you look at or what industry you're in, the average is that when someone visits your site for the first time, somewhere around 95 to 98% of them will leave and never come back. In other words, for every 100 people that you get to your site or to your page, only a few of them are actually going to stick around and hear what you have to say. And that ain't good. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to create a high converting landing page that not only looks good, but also works good, and one that you can create in as little as a few minutes. In fact, at the end, I'm even going to give you the exact templates that I use inside my business in order to generate some of the highest conversion rates in the industry. So here's my promise to you. If you do exactly what I show you inside this video, you will increase your conversion rates and get more leads, more customers, and more sales without needing any additional traffic at all. So let me show you how it's done. And it all starts with the single most important element of all, having an irresistible offer. There's a rule in direct marketing called the 40-40-20 rule, which essentially just states that the success of your campaign comes down to three things in the following percentages. 40% of your success is the result of your offer. 40% is the result of your audience and your ability to find the right target market. And just 20% is what we marketers call the copy, which are the words and the images that you use in order to describe your offer. But here's the thing. People get this backwards all the time. They spend the bulk of their time and their money and their energy on making things look really nice or sound really good, and then completely ignore the audience that they're going after, or more importantly, the offer that they're actually making. In other words, is what they're offering or what they're proposing to the market something that they actually want, or more importantly, something that they actually need? Most often, the answer is no. But it does explain why so many websites and landing pages often perform so poorly. I want better for you though, and that's why we've got to focus on making sure that you're creating the most irresistible offer possible. You know, something that the people you're trying to attract would actually find relevant and useful and valuable. I know, it sounds obvious, but common sense isn't always common practice. And if I had $1 for every time that I'd seen a website or a landing page where I couldn't even understand the offer, much less decide if this was something that I needed or wanted, well, I don't know, let's just say I'd have a desk full of dollars. Man, that'd be messy, totally disorganized. And I'd have to start buying things with cash. I can picture it now, standing in the grocery checkout line, being that guy trying to pay for things in cash, expecting the cashier to have exact change, holding up the line behind me, everybody getting mad. So the solution to all of this is to do us both a favor and make sure that your offer is truly solid. Now, there are a lot of ways to craft a truly compelling and irresistible offer, but if you're just getting started, I'm going to suggest you go with something that I call the clear offer formula. And it looks like this. We do X for Y so you can Z without W. The X is what you do. Literally, the product or the service that you sell, and put in a way that your audience would actually understand. There's no need to be clever or creative here, just say what you do. The Y is your ideal customer avatar, that perfect fit client or customer, that perfect prospect, the one that you love and that loves you and wants to tell everyone about just how great you are. You know the kind of people I'm talking about. Z is the benefit that they want, that end state, that outcome, that dream result that you're hopefully able to provide for them. And W is something that they don't want. This is typically something that's going to take all of their time or all of their energy or cause all kinds of pain or frustration, and hopefully you can minimize or remove that completely for them. This is a great place to start because the point is all of the best words and pretty pictures in the world aren't going to mean a thing if your visitor doesn't immediately understand what it is that you're selling and how or why they should care and how it's going to benefit them. And this is the perfect segue into the next point, which is all about content congruence. Content congruence is really just understanding that where your traffic came from is just as, if not more important, than where they arrived, which in this case is your landing page or site. And messing this up is one of the biggest reasons that most sites and most pages simply don't convert. Maybe this sounds familiar. You're scrolling through the web, you're reading an article, you're watching a video, whatever it is, and then somebody says something that catches your attention and makes you want to click a link to learn a little bit more about whatever it is they're talking about. So you click. But where you end up is often strange and confusing and doesn't align at all with what you thought you were clicking on. So naturally, you click the back button and you bounce. And this explains what happens for most people most of the time, and the solution takes part in one of three different ways. The first one is media congruence. Now this one's important, but it's also a little more advanced, so we're going to cover it, but don't be afraid to put this on the back burner and look at it later. Essentially, it just states that whatever media they're coming from should be in line and congruent with wherever they're going. So for example, example, if they're watching a video, then ideally the next step in the process would be some kind of video content or integrate some kind of video element. Same thing goes for text. If they're clicking on a text post or a text article or anything like that, making sure that the next step in that funnel or in that journey has a large amount or a decent amount of text because it's going to be in alignment. Audio is a little bit trickier because the primary forms of audio marketing centers around podcasts, and it's tricky to get somebody to a landing page and then embed an audio file. Often doesn't convert well, so there is going to be a little bit of a gray area here. The next factor is information congruence. This essentially just means that whatever page or whatever site you're guiding them to is in alignment with what it is that they've just consumed. To use a marketing example, let's say somebody's watching a video on, I don't know, SEO. Well, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to then get them to download a lead magnet on email marketing or video marketing. To use a health example, if somebody's reading a post on, let's say, the keto diet, well, it doesn't make sense to then send them to a post on paleo or vegan diets or anything that's not related to what they were just consuming. Again, sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how often this gets missed. And the third factor is brand congruence, essentially just making sure that the style and the tone and maybe even the colors of where they're going is in alignment with where they just came from. All of these are important because if you mess one of them up or stray too far off the original content you created, well, it can create kind of a jarring effect in your visitor and make them question where they ended up and make them start to think that they're not where they should be. So while we're talking about brand congruence and congruence in general, well, the next factor is all about images. There's an expression I know you've heard before, which is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when it comes to landing pages, this is absolutely the case. Your choice of images, and more importantly, the images that they're going to convey upon the visitor, can often mean a double-digit increase in conversion rates. The thing with images, though, is that there really isn't a one-size-fits-all formula where a single image is going to work equally well across all businesses and all markets and all industries. That said, there is a kind of image which is more of a one-size-fits-none. Basically, a kind of image that is so bad that it works nowhere, ever. And that is the standard stock photo. You know what I'm talking about, those super fake photos of people in an office shaking hands, smiling at the camera unnaturally, or the worst culprit of all, the stock photo high five. So do your best to find an image that actually looks like the people that you're trying to serve and one that conveys the right kind of attitude and emotion that you're hoping to deliver. And of course, don't be afraid to test different images. And on the topic of things you may want to test, well, next I want to share with you one of the least understood aspects of landing page design, and possibly one of the least understood aspects in all of marketing. I'm talking about the inline versus the pop-up form. But before we go into the specifics of the inline versus the pop-up form, first we need to get a little bit of terminology out of the way. Now, full disclosure, I've done my absolute best to make this next part as clear and as simple and as easy to understand as possible. But admittedly, it's still kind of confusing and sketchy. So don't be afraid to go back and rewatch it if you need another run through it. You ready? All right, let's go. When it comes to collecting someone's email address on your landing page or on your website, you have two different ways to do it. One of them is an inline form, also known as a one-step opt-in or a traditional opt-in. This example right here, well, this is an inline or one-step opt-in because all someone needs to do is enter their email address and then they're pretty much ready to go. A pop-up or a two-step opt-in, on the other hand, looks like this. And it requires the visitor to click a button first before being presented with the opportunity to enter their email address. Essentially, it adds another step to the process, which on the surface sounds like a bad idea. I mean, why would you want to make things more complicated and involve more steps? So I'll cover which one works better in just a minute. But what's important here, at least in your overall understanding of marketing, and especially tech talk and marketing lingo and jargon and some of the weird things we say here, well, there are also other terms called a double opt-in and a single opt-in, which take place after somebody has entered their email address. A double opt-in is what you traditionally see when you sign up for something and then you have to click a confirmation link in your email address to confirm that yes, this is you that actually requested it, before you're going to receive anything or be subscribed. A single opt-in, on the other hand, means that as soon as someone enters their email address, well, they're automatically subscribed without having to do anything else. And that's what makes this so confusing. You could technically have a two-step opt-in that leads to a single opt-in, or a one-step opt-in that leads to a double opt-in. But back on the topic of inline versus pop-up form, Which one's best for you? Well, personally, I tend to see better results from the pop-up form, but according to statistics and studies and research done on the subject, the answer is kinda split. For real, there's almost nothing in the world of marketing where things are as close as using an inline versus a pop-up form in regards to overall conversions. And this means two things. First of all, you really can't go wrong by choosing either one to start. And second of all, you're probably going to want to test the alternative at some point in the future to see what works best for you and for your audience. And speaking of what works best, next let me show you 2 landing page templates that I use inside my business, as well as that I use with my clients and my students, and that convert at over 68.4%, which is over 3 times higher than the average. Plus, I want to give them to you for free, so I'll also put a link in the description box below. But before we dive in, first a real quick warning that these pages are going to look deceptively simple, and that's kind of the goal. You see, more often than not, people overwhelm their visitors with too many options and too many choices and too many colors and too much stuff going on, when the reality is you just want to keep it simple and keep it in alignment with where they came from and what they're expecting. So with that said, let me show you 2 different landing pages now, starting with the simple and then moving on to a more complicated version. Alright, so what you're looking at here is the simple landing page, and like I promised you, it is simple, but that's also what makes it deadly effective. So at the top you can see lead magnet name. All you need to do here is enter the title or the description or the name of whatever it is that you're giving away, which could be a how-to guide, a checklist, a cheat sheet, or anything like that. Then the line below, well, this should look pretty familiar. Essentially, discover how to do X so you can Y without Z. Just go back to that clear offer formula, plug that in there, and you're pretty much done. Then you have the button. You can see here that we're using that pop-up. And the reason here is, again, it works best for my business, but feel free to swap this out with an inline field if it's gonna work better for you. And you'll also notice the CTA, or call to action text, is download now. After a decade of doing this, I still find consistently that this is the text that performs best. But if you have something a little more relevant like reserve now or sign up now or join now, you can feel free to test that instead. But if you feel the need to complicate things just a little bit more, that's all right too, in which case I want to guide you to the next landing page here, which is the more complicated version. You can see that this landing page is going to follow a similar structure to the other one, with just a few more areas of opportunity for persuasion and motivation and a little bit more authority. You see, it'll start at the top with that lead magnet title. You have an opportunity to put your logo here as well, which helps with some brand congruence and credibility. You've got your tagline here, which again, you can use the clear offer formula or simply follow the prompt there. The call to action button text, again, download now, seems to be one of the best performers for me personally and for most of my clients and students, but if you have one that you know works a little better, feel free to swap that out. Scrolling down, you have an opportunity here to show a picture of your lead magnet as well as provide a few bullet points, some of the highlights, some of the features or the advantages or the benefits of what they're going to get when they download, and then of course, another call to action button. Continually scrolling down, you'll find that you have an opportunity to put a bit of your bio. You can put your name, your title, some relevant information about who you are, always keeping in mind that it needs to be positioned in a way that your audience would actually care. Again, your about section here is less about you and more about how you can help them. We'll cap that off with a final call to action or download now button, some of the mandatory links at the bottom like a privacy policy or links to your page, maybe one more logo, and then you're pretty much done. And my gift to you is that you can feel free to download both of these landing pages just by clicking the link below, or feel free to model them and copy them and build them out yourself in your landing page program of choice. Of course, one of the most important factors of all when it comes to generating more clicks and more leads and more sales from your landing page or your website is making sure that you're sending enough traffic to the page in the first place. This is why the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video that I've got linked up right here on 5 digital marketing strategies that are proven to grow your business. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video. I mean, given the choice between having someone say consume 15 seconds of your content or 15 minutes of your content, kind of easy to see which one is going to win. It's the 15 minutes. Now, of course, there is